question. How many of you think that life is unfair? Okay. How many of you get angry when life is unfair? Okay, good. I think one of the biggest challenges that teenagers face is the realization that life isn't all butterflies and rainbows. When you're younger, you don't understand that there's more to life than Barbies or Legos. That is your world, and the worst thing that can happen is your brother melting your Barbie with a magnifying glass, or not being able to find that specific Lego piece shaped like a corner. But when you grow up a little bit, you are exposed to the real world and real life. I think that's when you start realizing that life really isn't that fair. I got my first dose of reality and my first big test of faith in 8th grade. During spring break, so exactly 4 years ago, my mom spent pretty much the entire time in the hospital. My brother and I spent that time at home watching and rewatching Star Wars and staying up late waiting for my dad to come home with a hope that he would have news, any news. I found out right at the end of spring break that my mom's cancer had come back, only it was worse than before. This time it was terminal stage 4 cancer, which stage 4 is the worst that it can be diagnosed as. It came as a big shock, and I remember sitting on the couch as my dad told me and feeling the lump inside of my throat just grow as tears began forming. So when I went back to school, I decided to isolate myself from everyone. During the WASL, I hurried to finish my tests so I could sit in the back of my science class and just write in my journal for 2 hours. That's when I started asking hard questions like, why did this happen? Who caused this? And during those days writing, I came to my conclusion. It was God's fault. I mean, who else has the power to control cancer, right? After I settled on this conclusion, I started straying from God. I didn't want to go to church. Praying was out of the question, and that relationship I used to have with God started to dissolve in my mind. At this point, I pretty much hit rock bottom. I had one friend. I was going to be moving to high school. I lost interest in the world, and everything just seemed really dark. A permanent black cloud shadowed my life. My parents kept telling me, God was the one who's going to get us through this. And I remember thinking, oh, really? Because it seems like he's the one who got us here. I had this mindset for a while. I walked around permanently angry, sad, and wanting revenge. But last year, everything changed. My parents and I had made a deal that for my mom's Christmas present, I would try going to youth group since we got a new youth pastor. My parents had been trying to get me to go for years, but I had always found an excuse. But this time I didn't have one. So I went to the S'mores on the Beach event and took a girl I knew with me. I expected that we would just do our own thing, be more like wallflowers than anything else. But that didn't happen. I didn't think anyone would talk to me, and actually I was hoping that they wouldn't. Right when I walked up to the church, Matt Crane came up to me and announced rather loudly, "Hi, I'm Matt, I'm awesome." Which, to be completely honest, Matt kind of scared me at first. But thankfully, Dan came up, made Matt go bother someone else, and introduced himself. And then things just kind of went from there. At the beach, Eric continually came up to me and my friend, talking to us and just wouldn't leave us alone until we were involved with whatever was going on. I kept trying to convince myself that I wasn't having a good time, but I was. That's when things all started to come into focus, and things began to make sense. This youth group and the people in it and God have transformed my life. In the past 2 years, I have realized that it isn't God who caused my mom to have cancer. It was sin. After reading The Case for Faith, I realized that when Adam and Eve ate the forbidden fruit, they made the choice to let sin into our world. God allows us to have free will, and with that comes reality. Sin is what caused my mom to get sick. Satan, however, doesn't want you to figure this out. He wants you to blame God or blame yourself, because if you do, Satan gains control. and I know none of you want that. In situations like the one I'm going through, the world's emotions flood your mind, and while they may be justifiable, it doesn't make them right. In the past 4 years, I've grown up a lot, and I had to. Life didn't really give me a choice. I've dealt with so much in such a short amount of time that growing up was inevitable. I needed to be strong, to learn to control my emotions, to think before I act, to be mature, to be able to sort things out and make sense of them, to see the results of actions and try to predict the future to prepare myself. Because being a big sister, I've been given a role as an example and a leader, even in the hardest of times. Now, some of you didn't know about my mom, and there were probably some of you who didn't realize that there was something this catastrophic in my life. But I think that should be a reminder to you, as it is to me every day, to always watch what you say and what you do, because you don't know what someone is dealing with. Everyone has something on their plate. Everyone is fighting some sort of battle. Now, normally I don't talk about my mom. It makes me sad, and it allows thoughts to come into my mind that I just prefer not to think about. I want you guys to also realize that along with tragedy, there's also good that comes out of it. Goodness knows I'm a stronger person, closer to my family, and have a better appreciation for life than I did 4 years ago. But I'm worlds away from where I was 4 years ago. I used to be shy and quiet and pretty much a loner, but that has changed quite a bit. I have lost part of my innocence in the past few years by dealing with my mom's battle with cancer, death in my family, and a tragedy among some of my friends. But the good that has come out of it is that I've never been closer to God in my entire life. I know that He is the reason that my mom is still here with me. I know that it is because of Him that I was brought to this youth group. It is because of Him that I finally found friends who accept me for the moody, weird dork I am. They don't make me feel guilty for being in a bad mood. They understand if I snap at them, they never get mad. They keep me accountable, they put a smile on my face, and they are always there if I need them. And they continually bring me closer to God. And those people are in this room right now. Because of God, I have acquired a new family, a new support system to add to my amazing one I already had. I owe everything to God. This challenging situation with my mom has broken me down in order for me to be built back up by God. Those things aren't perfect. My mom still has days when she's really sick, and I have my days where I just cry nonstop. But the difference between me 4 years ago and me today is my relationship with Christ is strong. I have Jesus in my life to guide me. I have a strong faith, and because of that, things will also start going right. And the dark times won't seem as dark because I know there's always a light at the end of the tunnel. Reality may not be fair. In fact, there may be moments when that just seems to suck and you won't want to continue on, or you will think that you can't. But if you truly believe in God and you trust Him and you pray, His light will shine on your life and you will be able to get through anything thrown your way. And I can attest to that because I have made it through impossible moments in my life that at the time I thought would take me down. But I made it through and came out on top. So I guess Philippians 4:13 is right. With God, anything really is possible.